And let's get quickly started with something that is sure to wake us up and energize us after lunch, which is the wonderful exchange debates. And I will introduce the moderator for the debate in a moment, but just to put the set the scene a little bit. As you know, more and more media, not only in Latin America, but globally, is being traded automatically. And of course, this raises lots of issues, lots of questions, the benefits, perhaps the not so beneficial aspects of it. So is this something that's here to stay? What does it mean for our industry, and how can we get our head around it? There are pros and cons within it. And to introduce the members of the debate, please welcome Alex Banks, MD Brazil and Vice President for Latin America of comScore. Alex, welcome.
Hello, everybody. Hope we had a nice lunch. Looking forward to this debate. It's going to be very interesting. Before I get to the panelists and invite everybody up, I just want to say a quick thank you to the organizers and sponsors of the Festival of Media. I love this event. I hope you all have really enjoyed the rich content and the networking. A quick round of applause for everybody involved in the event. So I'm not going to do much speaking. I'm going to let the experts talk about programmatic buying, RTB, and what it means. I will quickly say, however, though, that the internet audience in Latin America continues to be very fast growing, very vibrant marketplace, lots happening. The ad spend is relatively low compared to other markets around the world. So, we're all interested in advertisers, publishers, leveraging the internet to grow their businesses and reach their consumers in a more effective way. So we'll be talking a lot about that today. Without further delay, allow me to introduce the group. First, Lucas Mentasti, please. Lucas is the Managing Director for LatAm at Xaxis. Previously, before Xaxis, he was at Starcom for Vice President Digital Director for LatAm. The second panelist, please, Chris Morgan, comes to us from Zurich, Switzerland, and is the Head of Digital at Publicitas. Next panelist as well will be Eduard Montes. Yes. Comes from us from Boston. He's the CEO, co-founder of Digilant. And before Digilant, he was the Managing Director, North America at Havas Digital. And then finally, Bruce Journey. Thanks for joining us. He's the co-founder of DataXu. And before co-founding DataXu, he was the president and CEO of MIT's Technology Review. So we have a few questions here, and we will ask the panel their opinion on certain statements, and then at the very end, we'll also open up the floor for questions on top of anything that's said here or any questions that we aren't addressing. But this is more of a debate where we make these statements and we get quick feedback and thoughts and comments from this terrific panel. So the first one, just for those who aren't too familiar with programmatic buying, RTB, how it works, what all this means, because it is relatively new. Jay Stevens at Rubicon did a nice job of explaining some of the basics outside. If you weren't able to participate, I'm hoping that each member of the panel can offer in 20 words or less for somebody who's not necessarily familiar with these terms and familiar with the online advertising space, how would you explain what your company's role is in the digital advertising landscape? We'll start furthest to nearest. Bruce, please.
Sure. Well, DataXu is really a data science company, and we're bringing the skills around large data. I mean, there's a reason we have data in our name. And we're bringing that to the programmatic space, but not just in an exchange environment with direct-to-publisher media, private IDs, and so forth. So it's more than just auction-based media. And we have a number of very sophisticated machine learning experts that work with the company. So we're bringing a really sophisticated technology to the marketing space.
Great. Edward?
Okay, I'm going to try and hold it to 20 words or less. Let's see if I can do that. So Digilant is a company that develops technologies and services that helps clients and agencies do three things, I think. One is help you acquire data. The second thing we do is we help you add insight to that data. And then lastly, what we do is we help you act on that insight. And that's how I would describe what we do.
Excellent. Chris?
Publicitas is a sales company. We're a media sales company. We're not a tech company, so I'm not going to pitch the tech side of the story. But we're a sales company that believes that automation is part of the future of media sales. And so we acquired, or our holding company, Public Group, acquired Europe's leading SSP platform, Improved Digital, last year. So I'm going to talk about the role of automation in media sales moving forward.
Okay, Xaxis is an audience buying company. We're part of Group M. What we do is that we buy media and we use data to better target the audience that we want to reach.
Excellent. And 20 words or less. Fantastic job, everybody. So we have a really nice variety here in terms of technology, buy side, sell side, and I think we should, get some really nice perspectives on these different statements. So the first one is programmatic buying, RTB. The preconception that this is for predominantly performance buys versus branding buys. I'd like to hear what your comments are on that statement. It does come up a lot. I hear it all the time. We'll start with Lucas first, and then we'll go down to Bruce. How would you respond to that statement? Lucas, please.
Okay. First of all, what do we mean by programmatic? Just so everybody's on the same page. What we're saying is that we have a centralized ad serving, so we can manage the whole audience buying that we're doing from one centralized place. So going back to how we do a plan for branding. Branding, it's about managing frequency and reach. So there's nothing better than to have a centralized ad serving, a centralized technology to be able to to be very efficient on the way we put frequency caps and not to be giving any waste to the advertisers. So definitely, yes, it can be used for branding. And something that I've seen over all these years is that I've seen a lot of campaigns that have a very high frequency. I've seen frequencies of 20, 25, but we all know that they don't make a lot of sense. And by the way of using technology and programmatic buying, we can reduce that so we can be way more efficient.
Chris?
Yeah, I think it's a popular misconception. It's only about performance buys. I guess the problem, or the way to phrase the problem, is that the inventory that's available in exchanges right now, is the inventory that's available in those exchanges right for branding, or is the inventory that's available in those exchanges right now suitable only for performance buys? I guess that's probably at the heart of the issue, rather than saying it's a channel for one or the other. What's the inventory behind? What's the inventory that's available out there? And that's where I think this distinction between programmatic and RTB should be really clear and at the forefront.
Terrific. Edward?
Yeah, so I'll take exception to the statement, just period, is the way it's phrased, because I think it's miscasting the power of programmatic buying. I think it's a statement that's cast from a traditional media viewpoint, which is you define a funnel linearly, and you have performance at the tail end, and you have branding at the upper funnel. And I think practitioners of the programmatic space, at least those of us who see its potential or want to maximize its potential, would argue that what programmatic buying is about is being able to communicate with the user at the right time and to really affect the consumer's decision journey, right? So we don't think of a linear marketing funnel anymore, so we don't define or divide ourselves in terms of branding versus performance. What we're trying to do is make sure that we affect the right message at the right time in this consumer decision journey, as opposed to worrying about whether we're affecting branding or performance. And ultimately, to sort of further debate the question, if you will, or the statement is, performance and branding is it's a measurement issue. It's not really, and Lucas said it best, it's how you define the measurement, quite honestly. And again, it's a very linear thinking process to be stuck in the performance and branding mode. And it does not reflect actually the consumer journey today, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with both Ed and Lucas on this, in that, performance marketers are very often the first to adopt a new, more efficient technology. That's been the case over the last 30 or 40 years. And brand marketers tend to follow. Brand marketers are very contextually based, affinity based, and what we're now seeing is with the continued massive supply in the market in both display, mobile, video, I think you will on the performance side see continued growth, but we're starting to see branded marketers come into the space, particularly in video, in a very, very substantial way. Also, the quality of the content that's coming available programmatically is significantly better than it was 2 to 3 years ago. It used to be just mostly the long tail stuff that was in an auction environment, and now you can buy programmatically the best direct-to-publishing. You don't need to rely just on an exchange. So I would agree with the panel that it is definitely not just for performance-based, and we're seeing much more brand revenue moving into the space.
No, it's a question of efficiency, and certainly looking at what we measure, comScore as a company, we see the top advertisers in Latin America are predominantly performance buys. It's the Fitchis, the Netflix, Netshoes, and really all IABs across the region are very interested in getting more branding dollars spent online. The reach is there, the audience is there, and really efficiency is the key for better return on investment for branding buys. So the next question, I'll direct this one to Chris first, and then we'll take it from there. But the concept that programmatic buying RTB will cheapen a premium publisher's inventory. This does come up quite a bit. New technology, oftentimes, if not understood, can scare people, and certainly when you're under CPM pressure in a very, very competitive environment in emerging markets, it's a major issue. Chris, would love to hear your thoughts first in terms of this statement.
Sure. I mean, maybe the reason this is directed towards me is because the only publishers that we work with are, premium publishers defined. It's the major news brands, the major magazine brand publishers worldwide. Those are our bread and butter. But again, I think it's the way the statement is worded. We should probably query the whole way the premise of that statement comes up, because the reverse should be true. Programmatic, RTB, sell-side platform tools are there to give you more control. They're there to give you the possibility not to cheapen your inventory. If you let your inventory out there into DSP land without any floor price, without any controls over your inventory, then sure. And then you go out and ask your sales guy to sell it for $30 instead of 30 cents in the market, then sure, you're cheapening your inventory if you don't have control over it. But the whole purpose of SSPs, the toolkit that is an SSP for publishers, is to be able to control the floor pricing, control the buyers. Who do you let your inventory be seen by? At what different price points do you let your inventory be seen? So I think the reverse is true. Programmatic buying or the SSPs where you host your inventory, the toolkit will let you have more control and enable you not to cheapen your valuable branded inventory, basically.
Excellent. That comes up a lot with, again, lots of publishers struggling to cope with the consumer and multi-device and, really catching up with the pure players in the digital space. This is a major, major concern and certainly something to watch for the next year in Latin America.
I think the parallel is, if you've got a holistic view of what you're buying buy side and you have a holistic view of what you're selling sell side, then you're better able to control, you're better able to monetize by having that oversight, whether it's in a DSP or a demand-side platform or in a sell-side platform if you're making your inventory available.
But I think the question itself or the statement itself begs sort of deeper parsing, as you were saying, Chris, because first of all, not all programmatic is RTB, as Bruce alluded to, right? And certainly some of the things that the larger buying groups are doing from a programmatic standpoint are much more about improving workflow, improving the amount of intelligence that you add to all of your media buying, not just what you buy in RTB. RTB is a specific type of buy, which is real time, and also those real time marketplaces have typically are second price auctions or are auction driven, and some of the inventory cheapening that we're feeling right now are really dynamics from the auction and the sort of the state of supply and demand within those auctions. So I think there's lots that everyone can do to improve the yield, if you will, or the price from a publisher standpoint about how they participate in those auctions, which I think is your point, but also sort of how they manage, say, scarcity of their inventory as well. I think ultimately, as I was saying before, and I think we'd all agree, is the point of what you actually pay, the CPM that you actually pay in the programmatic world, and certainly in the RTB world, is less relevant to you as opposed to the amount of value that you can extract from that impression or that buy. And I think that's what the real difference is that until the marketplace starts to understand this notion of value versus price, then you're going to have supply and demand inequity drive prices down unless the publishers take scarcity into account or manage scarcity differently.
Let me comment something on that. I would like to answer from the advertising point of view. Ed, you said something great, that is, we don't know how much the value is and what's the value that advertising is giving to this kind of buys. And what I'm seeing is that every time we run a marketing mix modeling, an MMM, and there are not a lot of companies that are running it, is that the ROI for digital in media is way higher than the other media. So how do I see the future of this industry is going is as the different clients and advertisers start rolling out this kind of analytic programs where they will understand how much value is providing digital opposing to TV or to the other media, the demand is going to go up. And if the demand is going up and it grows faster than the supply, prices are going to be going up and not down. So summarizing what I'm trying to say is that I think that the price is going to equal the value in the long term. And as we get better on knowing how much is the value, the price will reflect that value. And it's going to be up to us to add value to this buying with things like programmatic, with things like buying, and with things with measuring.
That was a fantastic segue into the fourth and final question, Lucas, in terms of where is this all going? And in terms of Latin America, Latin America, emerging markets in general, move a little slower than the United States and Europe. And we're talking about this now. A year from now, I'm sure we'll be talking about this again. You just spoke to what this means. Is this the end-all, be-all of digital media buying? Where is this all going? Chris, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the same point, and then Edward and Bruce as well.
I hope it's the end of insertion orders changing hands, and not even by email, by fax. I mean, God help us. I hope it's the end of, we work with a publisher in Europe who mapped the process of putting even a small online buy online in his publishing house, and he made it out to be a 42-step manual process. Now, I don't know how many emails changed hands and how many Excel files went backwards and forwards, but the fact that he could map it as being generally a 42-step process to put 10 grand's worth of advertising online is not a happy place for our old-school publishers to be. So I hope it's the end of that stuff. Is it the be-all and end-all of media sales? Is it the be-all and end-all of digital media buying? I also hope not. I hope that there's always a place for imaginative sales guys to go out and talk to imaginative media buyers about doing high margin, high value, high impact deals. But the only way they'll have time to do that is if some of the other less high value, less interesting, less sexy stuff gets done in a more automated way. So I hope that the two coexist. I hope that I still have a job selling media in 12 months, 18, 24 months, whenever. So I see that these are two parallel tracks. I see that, freeing up, making less laborious this process of putting a campaign online enables salespeople to go out and do what they do best, or enables media buyers to buy better media.
Edward?
Well, I'll go back to sort of how Bruce described his company, and I think we all mentioned data as how we introduce what we do and what our companies do. I don't think that programmatic buying RTB is the end-all, be-all of digital media buying. First of all, I think we haven't finished the first chapter of this story, so I don't think that it could be the end-all, be-all. And the evolution of both technology, marketplaces, and use of data is so fast in this space that I think we'd all be wrong to try and make that call. I do think, though, what we're seeing is that we've clearly entered a period from a media perspective, from a media planning and buying perspective, and probably from a publishing perspective as well, where the use of data and data science specifically is now going to be embedded in how we think about planning and buying our media and how we think about our interaction with consumers. as advertisers. I think that is now become, or will become, if it hasn't already, a bedrock principle of how we think about from an advertiser's perspective, how we think about planning a campaign, how we think about valuing an impression. And I think that is the end-all be-all, is if we can get much better at that, if we can actually remove the waste from the system, I think is what we all want to do. But I think, again, as I said, we haven't finished the first chapter of the programmatic phase, and I think there's so much more to come. And as we've learned, right, the rate of media fragmentation and device fragmentation is so exponential that there's no way that we can predict if this is the beginning or the end.
I would agree with that, and I think first chapter, I think some of the markets that we operate in Latin America, the incidence with even more sophisticated digital agencies of programmatic is maybe in the 5 to 10% range. But think about when you're potentially able to buy an individual television impression programmatically. That will come. And I think IPG projects that by 2017, 50% of the digital inventory will be bought programmatically. So the capabilities are enormous. Think about how you used to buy and trade a stock in 1975 versus how you buy and trade a stock today. That is what is going to happen. There's an awful lot of operational efficiency to be extracted, to your point, and I think that we've really only seen the tip of the iceberg. So my encouragement to you is that if you don't have a great grasp of what's happening in the programmatic world, spend some time on it. It's definitely worth it, and if you're a marketer, you can definitely get a tremendous improved ROI on your investment by doing so.
I really don't believe very much in black or white. Is it going to end away completely? No, not really. But at the same time, I think about the two most successful companies in the online world. That's probably Facebook and Google, and all those buyings are done programmatically. So it keeps growing, and I think it's going to keep growing. And the idea of sending I/O through faxes, and we have done that. Let's hope that it's going to change. And there's something pretty important on the media. The media people role, and I think it's going to be changing. There's a lot of people working for Facebook and for Google, and they don't take orders like they do on the traditional side, and they don't get the faxes. And they need to change to go into a more consultative role and to be adding value to the clients. So that's from the programmatic part. I also want to differentiate programmatic from RTB. RTB means some kind of variable pricing. And if on RTB, basically, for you guys that do not come from this world, is you need to bid for a price. And to be able to bid for a price, you need to know how much you want to pay. And we go back to the question of value. So first of all, most of the times, we don't know how much something is valued. And even though we're getting better and better, I think that still doesn't seem very likely that we will know 100% how much every single impression is valued and every single part of a website is worth. So I don't see that everything is going to be RTB. I really don't see it. What I do see is that what's happening today in the market is that publishers, they are being very good at monetizing